Welcome to episode 4 of Bhakti Girl podcast, Comfortably Numb. In 1977, members of the English rock band Pink Floyd wrote a song titled Comfortably Numb. Actually, it was written by one of their members, Roger Waters, and David Gilmour composed the music. The song initially was about an experience Roger Waters had when he was very ill just before Pink Floyd was to play at a large venue. Before going on stage, a doctor injected him with a muscle relaxant that rendered him almost insensible. A muscle relaxant that rendered him comfortably numb. But this song took on a different life of its own for many people and spoke to them of the emptiness of their life and trying to find ways to live comfortably numb, using drugs or alcohol or working very hard or acquiring things and endless other distractions. Here are some of the words to the song. Hello. Is there anybody in there? Just nod if you can hear me. Is there anyone home? Come on, now, I hear you're feeling down. Well, I can ease your pain and get you on your feet again. Relax. All those feelings are not new though. There is an amazing story in the Srimad Bhagavatam that spans 7 chapters of the 5th canto, in which we read about a personality who was the king of this planet. His name was Bharat Maharaj, and he was in possession of all the opulence, fame, and power that being such a king entailed. In fact, this planet, which had previously been known as Ajanabar, became known as Bharat Vasa, the land of Bharat, because of his successful, peaceful ruling. Nearing old age, he stepped aside and retired to a forest to further his practice of meditation upon the Supreme Lord. There he ate forest vegetables and fruits and worshipped the Supreme Lord with everything available. Thus, he increased his devotion toward the Lord, and he automatically began to further realize his transcendental blissful life. One day, after Bharat Maharaj had taken his bath, as usual, in the river Gandhika, and was chanting his mantra, he saw a pregnant deer come to the river to drink water. Suddenly, there could be heard the thundering roar of a lion, and the deer was so frightened that it immediately gave birth to its calf. The deer then crossed the river, but died immediately. Maharaj Bharat took compassion upon the motherless calf, rescued it from the water, took it to his ashram, and cared for it affectionately. He gradually became attached to this young deer and always thought of it. As it grew up, it became Maharaj Bharat's constant companion, and he took great care of it. As he became more attached to the deer, his devotional service became less and less. Although he was able to give up his opulent kingdom, he became very attached to this deer. Thus, he fell down from his yoga practices. One day, when the deer was absent, Maharaj Bharat was so disturbed that he began looking frantically for it. While searching and lamenting the deer's absence, Maharaj Bharat fell down and died. Because his mind was fully absorbed thinking of the deer, he naturally took his next birth in the womb of a deer. However, because he was considerably advanced spiritually, the Supreme Lord arranged that he did not forget his past life, even though he was now in the body of a deer. Bharat Maharaj could understand how he had fallen down from his exalted position, and remembering this, as a deer, he lived near a temple in a forest ashram and listened to the daily chanting. Due to the Supreme Lord's arrangement, when it was time for Bharat's deer body to die, he took birth in the womb of the youngest wife of a Brahmin. In this life, he could also remember the activities of his past couple of lives, and in order to avoid the influence of society, he appeared to be deaf and dumb. He was named Jada Bharat. Jada means dull or stupid. The people in the neighbourhood thought of him as a crazy, dull fellow, but within he was always chanting and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His mother and father loved him dearly, and his father wanted to give him an education and purify him as a Brahmin by offering him the sacred thread. But Jada Bharat appeared to be too foolish. Due to his silly talk or silence, some people began to tease him in many ways, but he tolerated this. After the death of his father and mother, his stepmother and stepbrothers began to treat him very poorly. They would give him the most condemned food, but still he did not mind. He remained completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. The ruler of that state, King Rahagana, needed a fourth carrier for his palanquin. His chief carriers found Jada Bharat, and considering him to be no more than an animal, they captured him and brought him to carry the king's palanquin. Jada Bharat did not protest and humbly carried the palanquin. While carrying it, however, he was very careful not to step on any ants, and whenever he saw one, he would stop until the ant had passed. Because of this, he could not keep pace or rhythm with the other carriers. The king within the palanquin became very disturbed and chastised Jada Bharat with indecent language. But Jada Bharat, being completely freed from the bodily conception, did not protest. He proceeded carrying the palanquin. However, when he continued as before, stopping abruptly, the king threatened him with punishment. Being threatened by the king, for the first time in that lifetime, Jada Bharat began to speak clearly. The king, hearing the transcendental instructions of Jada Bharat, was awakened to his real knowledge. The king could then understand that he had offended a great, learned and saintly person. At that time, he very humbly and respectfully apologized to Jada Bharat. The king wanted to understand the deep meaning of the philosophical words spoken by Jada Bharat, and with great sincerity he begged him. In chapter 11, text 8, Jada Bharat explained, "When the living entity's mind becomes absorbed in sense gratification of the material world, it brings about his conditioned life and suffering within the material situation. However, when the mind becomes unattached to material enjoyment, it becomes the cause of liberation. When the flame in a lamp burns the wick improperly, the lamp is blackened. But when the lamp is filled with ghee and is burning properly, there is bright illumination. Similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering. And when detached from material sense gratification, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness." Jada Bharat also told the king about his own previous birth and informed the king that by the grace of the Lord he still remembered all the incidents of his past life. Due to the activities of his past life, Jada Bharat was being very cautious and was therefore assuming the characteristics of a deaf and dumb man. In chapter 13, text 25, after receiving lessons from the great devotee Jada Bharat, King Rahugana became completely aware of the constitutional position of the soul. He thus gave up the bodily conception completely. My dear King, whoever takes shelter of the servant of the Lord is certainly glorified, because he can, without difficulty, give up the bodily conception. So the scriptures don't want us to live in this world comfortably numb. The Lord and his devotees want us to be fully awake and alive in our natural, spiritual, and happy condition. Namaste.